Please subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon for the future uploads. Namaste. In this video, we are going to discuss the topic of restitution of conjugal rights. So what does it mean? Basically, if you see the word, it is restitution of conjugal rights, meaning to reinstate the conjugal rights, and conjugal rights is right of cohabitation. To reinstate the right of cohabitation, we call it restitution of conjugal rights. When your spouse left the matrimonial home or matrimony and you want your spouse back. So basically, when without any sufficient reason your spouse is residing separately from you, that's when you file a case of restitution of conjugal rights, that too when you want your spouse back. And then that petition is called as petition for restitution of conjugal rights. So there are two factors which are very much important. First factor is that your spouse has left the matrimonial home, that too without any reasonable cause or excuse. And the second reason is you want to call your wife back. When both of them are present, then only you file a petition for restitution of conjugal rights. What to state in the petition? A. All the happy moments you spent with your spouse. B. Spouse left without any reason. C. You want your spouse back. So basically, in the petition for restitution of conjugal rights, you have to mention all the happy moments, all the romantic moments you have spent with your spouse, so that the court should understand how happy your matrimony was. All the happy instances you have to mention. At the same time, you have to refuse to write any allegation on the spouse which is contrary to the happy thought. So you have to have not to mention any unhappy thought or any quarrel that you had with your spouse in the petition, because you want your spouse back and you don't want divorce, and therefore you have to state all the happy and romantic moments you have spent with your wife. Along with that, you have to also mention as to when your spouse left you, and then how you have tried to call her back but she did not come back, and how you want to call her back now from the court. So all these things have to be enumerated in the case in order to complete the petition for restitution of conjugal rights. Remember, don't add anything which is contrary to the happy moments. You have to mention only happy and romantic moments in the petition. Burden of proof. On your spouse to prove that there was just or reasonable cause to leave the matrimony. As is the common belief that when you file something in the court, you have to prove it. But this is an exception, wherein you don't have to prove anything. All the proofs which will be required will be taken from your spouse and not from you. Why? Because you are not the one who left the matrimony. You are mentioning everything which is happy and goody-goody and romantic things in the petition. So the burden will be on the other party, that is your spouse, that why she left and there was reasonable cause or excuse to leave the matrimony. Then only the petition will be granted in her favor. Otherwise, if she is unable to prove or he is unable to prove that there is or there was not any just or reasonable cause or excuse, definitely restitution of conjugal rights will be granted by the court. And for that, you have to remember that burden to prove that there was just or reasonable cause is on the other party and not upon you. So this is a unique case where even if you are filing the case, you don't have to prove anything. The other party only has to prove everything in this case. This is the exception to the general rule. Myths. A. It will be best defense for 498A or maintenance case or domestic violence case. B. You have to prove the case. So all the two myths that as stated, like you have to have best defense for 498A or maintenance case or domestic violence case, you file restitution of conjugal rights. It is a myth. Filing restitution of conjugal rights case is not a defense at all. If you genuinely are interested in calling your wife back, then only you file for restitution of conjugal rights. And it is not a tool or not a defense tool wherein you can defend the case of 498A or maintenance or domestic violence. There are n number of cases wherein husbands have filed for restitution of conjugal rights as a tool or as a defense measure against 498A, maintenance or domestic violence, but they have lost miserably because in reality they were not willing to cohabit. So when you are actually wanting to cohabit with your wife, then only file for restitution of conjugal rights, because there are many other reasons why not to file for restitution of conjugal rights if you really don't want to cohabit with such spouse. And the second myth was you have to prove everything, whereas like we have discussed in the point earlier that you don't have to prove anything, everything has to be proven by the other party who has left the matrimony. If you have liked the video, please give a thumbs up. Video on various topics are going to be uploaded on YouTube. Please subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon for the future uploads. Thank you.